Good morning and welcome to the Capital Gang. I am Hon Ssemujju, and a lot of, should I say, discussion or banter in the studio before we settle down. Honorable Ssemujju is not in a suit this morning. Good morning, Honorable Ssemujju.
Yes, Oscar,
and welcome to Gang. In the studio, I have young veteran journalist Angelo Izama. Good morning, Angelo. We have missed you on the Capital Gang.
It's been a minute.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
What have you been up?
Angelo is not young.
I said young old man.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Same as saying Ssemujju is a young old politician. Malcolm Hamizo, you're most welcome to Gang.
Thank you, Oscar. A very good morning to our listeners. It's good to be back.
Okay, Honorable Katesh, most welcome to Gang.
His name is Kateshumba.
Dixon.
Yes, not Kateshi.
What's wrong with Katesh?
That is not his name.
The man is in a fighting spirit.
The moderator is introducing us. So, good morning, listeners. And
it is not yet time to fight. Yeah. Is that why they were denied a name for their party? Because
I think I've just showed him a very big article on page 10 of New Vision about the plot to remove him from Chira municipality. I just want him to read.
This
is not NRM.
It
by
happens
FDC.
Each season of the election.
So, I think
even NRM does.
Okay. But happy to be back here.
Okay.
I missed last week.
Yes.
And I welcome my senior Emmanuel, Honorable Dombo. We are together in Chisoro, and we are glad we are back here.
Yeah. I thought I'm the one introducing, as you'd said.
I was welcoming, not introducing.
Okay.
Even your welcoming was done by the moderator.
Yes. You're most welcome, Honorable Emmanuel Dombo. Good to have you. We've not had you quite a while.
Thank you very much, Oscar. Good morning, our listeners. Good morning, gangsters and guests. It's a pleasure for me to be here.
For you in NRM, you still only have one secretariat?
Absolutely, yes. We only have one secretariat, floor 10, Chadondo Road. But there are so many operating centers.
So many. In the studio, we have Dr. Akankwasa Barirega. Dr. Akankwasa is the ED of NEMA. Listeners, going through to end of year, we are going to start a series of what institutions work. And today in the hot seat, we are beginning the series is NEMA. National Environmental
Protection
Management Authority.
Management Authority, yeah. Some of you said protections, management. At some point we'll get cases.
I'm sorry.
Okay. You know, Honorable Ssemujju, I don't know how you come in from Chile. I come from the bypass, as Dombo here will tell you, built by the NRM, and then come through Kabila School at the back, and then behind Kamwacha Market, yeah?
We pay money.
And the level of potholes. So this time round, they've improved them. They've cut them through the old Chira road. So they are all cut. So next week I'll give another report of how far they've gone. So this time they've cut. And that's the same road. You remember when I had to employ Malcolm as my lawyer the other day when I splashed a gentleman and he wanted a shot of 150,000. So again, I wanted to build.
But they are very innovative. You see, the road between Chihuahua, Nigeria.
Was that the one launched this week?
Yeah, but you see, when it got potholed, they remove chorus completely.
Okay.
So the potholes went. So they are very innovative people.
So there's no...
Now it is dust as if you are in a mine.
Well, at least it has been launched, and I hope my village road will be fixed. So great to have you back. Dr. Barirega, but you know, every time I invite you to Gang, I feel bad for you. Because until you sort out that place in Chigo, we are going to have a problem.
We shall sort
and
that one.
Everyone in Chigo knows I have the NEMA man. Last night, no sleep. The noise alone. Then there's that place where they do the cement in a swamp. Again, the level of dust. Once I took a video for you And I wanted you to walk with me because I was walking that cement dust, so that if I die soon, someone sues you.
Thank you very much, Oscar. A very good morning to all our listeners. Yes, we shall definitely solve those issues you've raised. And we are
people in Chigo are listening to you.
Yes,
and sometimes you go to that seminar.
We assure the people of Chigo that NEMA, working with relevant lead agencies, will address the issues in Chigo.
Okay. And then in your absence, Ssemujju nearly murdered you on gang here.
I was listening to
you were listening?
Yes, I was listening.
Here is a good time to respond to him.
And I was saying that a criminal offense should have been opened against the Honorable Ssemujju for inciting violence. That time.
Well, when he said those people evicted should come to your house?
Yes, that was incitement of violence. But he's a reformed man, I'm sure. He's not inciting violence anymore. Yeah, and we pledged to work with him to address environmental issues, even in his constituents, because the laws we are implementing are really his laws. We're implementing the 2019 National Environment Act, which he enacted himself. So we are implementing his wishes and aspirations.
So how have you settled that issue? Where have those people gone to?
The which people?
The one Ssemujju was agitating for the eviction.
No. He evicted the people in Nansana, in Rubiji.
Yes.
Left there Ruto's petrol station, left there a police station. So they went for the powerless. That's what he did.
But police station, that would be understandable.
In a wetland?
Anywhere.
In a wetland. So you tell me the reason I'm living is the environment.
He's there. I've allowed you to ask him.
But police should settle there, and Ruto should construct a petrol station there.
Even in a national park, even on a lake, if there is need for security can deploy there.
Even in his home.
They are not there permanently. They are there as an operation center, because you remember the insecurity that used to plague that area. People were being killed there, robbed. So the station came there as an operation center to address security issues, but it's not a permanent station. It's not permanent. It's just operations.
But the question from me was, so how have you resettled those people?
No, there is no issue of resettlement, as you are aware. What we are doing then and what we are doing now is to remove encroachers from wetlands. To encroach on a wetland is a criminal offense established under National Environment Act, which is punishable by 12 years jail sentence or 600 million fine. So it's a criminal offense. We are just removing encroachers, and we are not, for now, actually prosecuting them. So they have amnesty if they live peacefully, and we give them notes, sensitize them, work with them to live. As I speak now, the operation is ongoing in Rubiji, and the people are responding. And we thank them. So we are not in a resettlement. That's not our mandate. That's the mandate of the Ministry for Disaster Relief and Refugees in the Office of the Prime Minister. Ours is to enforce the law, to remove encroachers. Yeah.
Fair enough.
You see, Oscar, there are two things I will say about NEMA. First, the law he claims is implementing lays out a procedure. The procedure starts with the institutions under the law. In each and every district, they are supposed to have an environment committee. When you issue a restoration order like he did, there is even supposed to be a tribunal. People you are asking to vacate, a process they follow when they disagree with you is in the law. They can appeal to the tribunal, but you also work through these committees that are non-existing. What Akankwasa did was to go like many government institutions, go and implement Museveni's emotions about environment. He did not even, I think, know that a law existed and it gives guidance. And that's why maybe, so most of the meetings we had with him, and I said we had, not necessarily that I attended all the meetings, were meetings about the law, that you break the law to implement the law. And The last time I checked, they were attempting now to set up a Kampala Environment Committee. These things needed to be in place. And that committee, all elected leaders are part of that committee. He may say it's not my mandate to resettle people. But you're in a government agency whose duty is to serve people. So when you go and cause the mayhem like you caused that day, you cannot wash your hands clean and say, for me, those things don't concern me. That's why the Environment Committee is supposed to be comprised, among others, by the elected leader. So the committees are not there. The tribunal is not there. The restoration order. So he was working like a military man. I want you to move, and they move. So if you don't follow the law, you cannot break the law to go and implement the law.
Let him respond.
But also, as I said, and deliberately he avoided the Ruto's petrol station there. He spoke about the police. I don't know, maybe even Ruto is providing security. That you go to the area, chase the ordinary people. Ruto's petrol station you don't touch.
You make the point.
We've addressed the matter of the fuel station for a long time, but if you give me time, I will talk about it. But let me first clarify the misstatement, the misfact that has been laid on table. I have been hearing it that you require an environment and a natural resource committee before you do enforcement of the law. That's not true. It's not in the law, neither is it in practice. What he's talking about is district environment and natural resource committees established under the National Environment Act. These committees, their composition is known. It has the technical teams and the political team, including MPs. Now, the purpose of that committee is to help that local government address environmental issues in that local government, as well as advise the central government on matters to do with the environment in that local government. So these committees are very important and they are statutory, but they are not in the loop of enforcement operations, and they should never be mixed. These are strategic committees that guide, that give strategy, that speak in terms of policy direction. Now, the restoration orders are established under the same law and a different section, section 130. Before, if somebody has encroached on a place and you want to remove him, the law provides that you give them 21 days notice, which you give them, and within 21 days they have a right to appeal the order to the ED, and the ED establishes a review mechanism which is in place already, and people have appealed. Some people of Rubiji appealed, and their appeals have been heard by the review committee. So all the institutional requirements for enforcement are in place. The courts are in place. The review mechanism is in place. So the enforcement has nothing to do with
two more questions I have for you, Dr. Kankwasa.
Yes.
The first one from a listener. Yes. How far have you gone with the Kavera issue?
The Kavera issue, we are bringing an amendment to the National Environment
And I ask this because I'm going to finish off asking about the ozone layer and zone, because you cannot get to that stage if you have not sorted Kavera.
In fact, the Kavera contributes to ozone problems. But the Kavera is a legal issue. Parliament in 2019 established a law that required people not to use or produce the polythene Kavera or plastic carrier bags of 30 microns and below. So the problem became enforcement. 30 microns and 40 microns cannot be distinguished by a common eye. So you have to pick a sample, first take it to the laboratory, then come with a decision that this is below, this is above, which became a problem to implement. So what we are doing now, we work with UNBS, which the law vests the authority to enforce that provision, to ensure that the manufacturers manufacture polythene carrier bags of above 30 microns as required by law. But the strategic solution in our view is to phase out plastic carrier bags, because we can have alternative, and the alternatives are already in place. We have fabric bags, we have paper bags, we have plastic bags which can be reused. So we believe that alternatives are in place, and it is high time Uganda phased out plastic carrier bags and other single-use plastics, so that we focus on reusable and durable.
Whose job is it to phase out the plastic?
It's a legislative issue, and I'm saying we are coming up already with an amendment Cabinet already agreed that we prepare an amendment which will go to Cabinet and then to Parliament so that we ban single-use carrier bags and other problematic single-use plastics. For example, these water bottles. Why can't we go back to glass bottles? All other countries have gone back, even within East Africa itself. We remain an island using these plastics, whereas we can recycle them. It's not adequate. Eventually, we need to find alternatives. We have sand. Why can't we make glass, which we can reuse and reuse? If it gets broken, you crush and reuse again. So we have better alternatives, and this is going to be addressed. Yeah.
When you're in Kigali, you can see just visibly with the eye that there are no plastics. What can we copy?
Well, Kigali has banned the single-use carrier bags, but also plastic bottles are being managed. And I think that's the way to go. And it is not only Kigali, actually, the world has moved. As I speak, there is an international negotiating committee established by United Nations to discuss and come up with a legally binding treaty to control plastic pollution, because estimates indicate that in 10 years, if we do not act, we shall have more plastics in waters than fish. So the situation is very, very alarming.
So, NEMA, you want to present ozone for life, and you're saying you look at the Montreal Protocol nationally, following on to global guidance. But if we're still cutting trees, we have not sorted out Kavera, we still ban. People just collect their rubbish and burn, and we still have Chitezi with us. So how can we aspire for such lofty notions like ozone for life?
Ozone actually is a multilateral environment management success story. In 1987, scientists having realized that we have a hole in the ozone layer. The ozone layer is a layer of gas or ozone molecules which help us to prevent damaging ultraviolet rays from the sun from reaching us. God was very, very scientific that he created layers. From the Earth's surface, we have the troposphere, where we have gases that we breathe. Then we have stratosphere, and then we have the ozone layer as you move to the sun. Now, this one helps us to capture the ultraviolet rays from reaching us. You see that scientific design. People who don't believe should believe actually that God was remains the biggest scientist. So, because of
these are things you should tell Ssemujju. Me, I'm a practicing teacher. So
yes, it's very, very important to have belief in God, because if you look at the Earth's surface and its design, it cannot have been accidental. It's scientifically designed.
I'm telling Ssemujju that this is on the syllabus.
Okay, but
Doctor, you continue with make it relevant to us, Uganda.
Yes, because of our human practices, particularly use of chemicals called chlorofluorocarbons, or chemicals that have carbon, chlorine, and fluorine. These chemicals, which were used in refrigerations and air conditioning and other ozone depleting substances like halogens. Now, these ones eat up the ozone layer and created a hole. And when the hole is created, these ultraviolet rays come and cause skin cancers, cause cataracts in eyes, and also affect the productivity of crops. And the sources were refrigerants, air conditioning chemicals, but also agriculture. Agriculture, use of fertilizers releases nitrous oxides into the atmosphere, which also affects the ozone layer. So the world realized that we were going into a crisis, and in 1987, the world unanimously agreed to come up with the protocol, the Montreal Protocol, to address the issues that were depleting ozone. And I can tell you from 1987, it is the only treaty in environment management where you can see that progress has been made. The ozone layer has been healed, not completely. It is estimated that the ozone layer will be, the hole will be completely healed by 2070. But
so finally,
significant
Dr. Kankwaza,
progress
what are
has
we
been
doing
made.
in Uganda? Yes,
No, in Uganda we are
bring
doing
it to Uganda.
a lot of things. Policy reforms. Uganda ratified the Montreal Protocol in 1988, just 1 year after its enactment. We've phased out substances that deplete ozone. Chlorofluorocarbons have been phased out and replaced with hydrofluorocarbons and environmentally friendly refrigerants. We are training the technicians in partnership with Chambogo and other vocational education institutions, so that when you go to repair a fridge or an aircon, you use certified and approved gases that do not destroy ozone. So we are doing capacity development of the technicians. We are giving them training kits. We are also raising awareness amongst the general population not to engage in activities that release these gases that deplete our ozone. Reforestation remains top on our agenda, and the last time I was here I updated the nation that we are making progress, albeit slowly, but there is progress. The forest cover is recovering. The forest, the wetland cover has also appreciated by 0.2%.
I'm looking at you the way Kamala Harris looked at Donald Trump.
0.2%. And so we have to continue working together. We have to continue working together to ensure that we heal the planet. If we do not heal the planet, ultimately we shall perish together.
Cats and pets and his dog.
It's the way I'm looking at Dr. Kankwaza when he talks about reforestation.
Yes, we are doing reforestation. Our forest cover has improved. Our forest cover has improved from 9%, from only 9%, having reduced from 45%. We are now back to 13%. So there is progress, and our target of 2040, yes, we've now recovered from 9% to now 13%. So there is progress. And don't look at that as a small achievement. Don't look at that as a small achievement, because look at the population we had in 1962. We had just 8 million people. How many people do we have now? So you cannot expect to have back the 45%. It's not possible. So our target is actually 15 by 2040. So we are on track to achieving the 2040 targets for afforestation.
Let me start with you,
I just want to find
Dombo.
In addition to what you have said,
you're going to support me maybe at the end of the show when I ask him, at the end of the hour when I ask him if there are any resignations about Kitezi and so on. But to have his very big ideas when we still have a few things to sort out, how can you support NEMA, Emmanuel Domo? I must warn you are seated in a chair where you support everything government.
The expectation from public is very horrendous. And all NEMA work depends on the availability of resources and goodwill from politicians. There are two things that must be available in order for them to execute their mandate. Unfortunately, quite often when NEMA wants to implement its mandate, the politicians, because they are associated with the population, either incite them or mislead them on what should have been done in order to enable NEMA do what they're supposed to do.
You're looking at Ssemujju now.
Not necessarily Ssemujju. I come from an area where the other day we were in Kisoro. When you look at the land practices in Kisoro, you see that the people, it's a very tradition. It's an old community which was trained. When you see the land preservation practices, and you come and overfly Buganda, as we came from Kisoro, we overfly. You can see here.
You all came here, so you don't have the same pressure like Uganda has.
No, but even in
from wherever you lived, you all came here.
But even in Butaleja,
yes.
When we were young, we used to take clean water from the river and you drink it. Right now, all rivers in Uganda are silted.
But
and
also Kisoro has higher population pressure than Central. In terms of population pressure.
So as government, for us, we are going as a party. Now, I'll first of all talk as a member of the NRM, because environmental protection and the directive by the president, who is also national chairman of NRM, basically wants to protect the environment. One of the mistakes that people usually make, we don't know that we all share the same environment, those living today and those who live in the future. And it is the responsibility of those living now to ensure that we conserve the environment so that those who will be born later can get and partake of it without destroying it. So for us, we shall propose the legislation. We shall push our members of parliament to ensure that they provide the resources, but also push government to ensure that the resources that are required. But now the remaining part is the goodwill from all the actors, especially the politicians who usually want to associate with the population, even when they may be in the wrong, but also to find out. For Nikita's, I've been listening to the population too, and I've met some of the people, and I was wondering, is it true that those people who were settling in Ikitezi have land titles which were given by agencies of government, and what are the implications if they do exist? That's something that will help us to understand.
Yeah. Angelo, recently you've been reading the annual report, coincidentally, of NEMA, and here you are with a big man of NEMA.
Yeah, I exercised my privilege of knowing the man.
His industrial park is in a way to
I had an advance copy.
Industrial park.
Let me switch off your microphone.
No, it's okay. You can.
No,
Ssemujju is misbehaving, but most people don't know that when he first came on radio in 2003, I think, I was his first producer. So he's a trained
heckler.
Yeah, and he has a career. He's built a career. You know, No, we never trained him to do this.
Be a heckler.
These are bad habits he picked up when he crossed the lane from journalism to politics.
Yeah, they've come with age.
But look, yes, I had the advanced copy of the 2022 environment report, which is recommended reading, very sobering for everyone. And a lot of the things that my colleague from NEMA has said.
Can your office share it now on X as presented?
Yes, it's online. It's already published on our website.
I really recommend people read this, but also I think if you're younger than us here in the studio, the future, which really lies on how you manage the environment, even forget about the political institutions of the day. The future does not look great if you do not make interventions now. Anyone who just listens to radio or is online will be aware that, in Libya, a dam was burst, people are displaced. Today I heard in the morning that in Myanmar, there's a typhoon there that has completely upended the place. Where my other home is in California, people had evacuation orders have been given for people to leave their homes because of perennial fires. California is very dry and has been dry for a long time. So there they have a real crisis. It's not going away anytime soon. Apart from that, here in Uganda, I just checked just now that air quality readings for Kampala, which has been almost as bad as some of the largest cities in the world, Beijing, Tehran, or Abu Dhabi, also where I stay. Kampala competes because the particulate pollution here is so bad, and you just have to go to the hospitals and talk to the doctors, and you'll hear that respiratory diseases are up, and children particularly are affected. So if one does not seize this crisis and focus on it, I think it doesn't matter where you stand politically or institutionally, we're all going to be in a bad way. And I was recently up country in two sides of the country. I went to Moyo, because stopped by Germany there, where we have that Zoka Central Forest Reserve. Zoka is, Zoka is, I think, almost 60% of that forest is gone. Now, the other day, the Germany people did something good, which is they impounded 20,000, I think. They impounded 1,000 bags of charcoal, and now they have auctioned it. But we have been encouraging people, to where the law is not present, to be activist citizens and seize these lorries and do something about it. If you go to the east, where there are tons of wetlands, all across, especially in Busoga, the whole place is choking with plastic. It's depressing to look at. Anyway, the NEMA report highlights the following. First, urban population growth is not going to slow down. 20 million people in urban areas, and I think that's a conservative estimate, by 2040. And these things we're talking about, the climate change events, those two are applying pressures. Air quality is bad, and protection of wetlands, no matter how it is put, is still poor. So, just to conclude, I think that the problem here is really with the political establishment. Regulation is not the preferred response, Oscar. If you plan well, you have less to regulate. So when politicians say we have passed a law to deal with a problem, it means the problem already exists. And in Uganda, traditionally, all the time that I have been in this business, regulators are weaker than the sectors they regulate. And this is across all institutional regulators. In fact, in the forestry area, they just become protection cartels for senior military officers who collude to cut down trees, politicians who send civilians into forests to grab land. These are just our realities. So regulation is not the preferred response to dealing with the environment. It means something is really bad. I think the political establishment needs to get its act together. Mm-hmm. You mentioned Kigali and Rwanda. What is happening there is quite simple for everyone to understand. The establishment has set the high standard, and the institutions are following. Thank you, Oscar.
Malcolm, you've recently been in Ghana. Are they any different? Are they better? Are they?
They're slightly different, but not that much better. I think the issue of plastics and pollution and the environment is one that I think Africa is going to deal with a lot more than the rest of the world, partly because the regulations in many other countries, and like Angelo has alluded to, they are in a difficult position in those countries, but the regulators are better off than we are here. Whereas regulation is not, by the time regulation comes in, you have challenges. I think that it remains one of the best tools alongside civic awareness to be able to address the challenges that we face. I was just quickly going through some of the statistics here, and probably Dr. Kankwasa wants to update the Global Forest Watch, because some of these statistics really are not in tandem with what he's saying about forest cover. Maybe there's a difference between primary forest cover. I'm not a technical person on that front, but all the graphs that I'm looking at over 2001 2023 are showing loss. Either it's a 2.8%, 14%, 7.2%, 15%. All of it is decreasing. Maybe the rate has slowed down, and that's what he's saying. But that doesn't, again, dovetail with the several stories we hear about forests being given away. We don't have to go too far. Zoka is under threat. Bugoma is under threat. And several others. Those are the ones that have made the headlines, but there are several others that are under threat. So for the platitudes that he's presenting here, I think those should be matched with actual solutions. Because if the response to Kavera is another law, We know that almost 20 years ago there was a provision that was made. What happened to that one? Have we analyzed why its implementation wasn't effective? What are we doing differently? Between 2009 and 2019, when NEMA, when the Environment Act was passed, there was no limit on the microns for the Cavera and all of that. But some of these things are just put in place to tick, boxes and say we are protecting the environment. Honorable Ssemujju here responded. I don't know if it was loud enough for our listeners when Honorable Dombo was talking about the president's insistence on the environment, protecting the environment, and Honorable Ssemujju asked, from who? Who are we protecting the environment from? And the people who are in charge of protecting the environment, what are they doing to protect, or to safeguard the environment themselves? Who is protecting the environment from them? Because if you have a police station that is being protected in a wetland for security purposes, when you look at the construction, it's a permanent structure. It is not one that you would permit, I would think, with NEMA standards, to be put up in a wetland. And you're saying that structure needs to stay to protect the people, to protect the environment from the people.
And maybe a petrol station where no one can go. But
that police station was donated by the petrol station, and maybe that's where the linkage is in terms of that station staying together with the petrol station. But all those that's just a microcosm of the challenges that we are facing. When you go into the sand mining issues around sand mining, at what point? How do we get to the point where Chitezi happens and it doesn't necessarily wake us up across the board? Because there's a lot of conversation about what we do for waste management now, but there isn't enough that is being discussed about a more comprehensive approach to address the different aspects that would lead to another Chitezi. When I think it was I don't remember who mentioned sand mining. Sand, we have to have enough sand, we can make glass. Yes. I'm not sure we still have enough sand. I am not so sure, because there is a lot of sand mining, unregulated sand mining, that has been happening in places we have seen, and so much more in places we haven't seen. When you look at how different mining is done across the country, there is very little regard for the environment. Whether it is the mercury that is used in gold mining, and yes, there are laws against all of that, and I'm glad Doctor confessed that the challenge has always been enforcement. So before another law comes into place, can we go backwards and ask ourselves, what about enforcement can we change so that the laws that are currently in place, and you see, this enforcement shouldn't be due, because it's only used, the enforcement in Lubigi that the doctor is hiding behind is to remove. But how did they get there in the first place? How do we enforce the protection? And how do we do that across the other wetlands which are there, which are being occupied by certain individuals? And that's where the problem is, that if you had enforcement equally implemented across the board, then maybe the future would be bright.
Katesh, you're with national parks and tourism and so on, so you are very much vested into good environment.
Yes, it's very, very true, because even in our small investments in tourism, we have a policy of not having plastics on board, because if you go to places like Solo, they are some of the only remaining places where you can enter and you feel you are enjoying fresh air, but also the forest is visible. But I just wanted to say that NEMA is empowered by law to enforce environmental regulations. So the ED, on the aspect of enforcement, he cannot run away from it, and this does not mean that he has to work alone, because he has all the other state mechanisms to help him enforce. So as far as issues of enforcement, we hold you accountable as ED. And the president has come out clear about issues of environment, which as a party, as NRM, personally I support. The last time the ED was here, for example, I raised the issue of deforestation. Yesterday, when I was coming from Chisoro, I had a meeting with some of the leaders in my constituency. And I asked them, has it rained? They said, no. So-and-so has prevented rain. Who is that so-and-so? An investor comes, he goes into a village and sets up a factory to cut trees and get material for plywood to export. Imagine in a place like Shema, you set up a factory, you have no raw material, but all you are doing is tell people you bring a tree, 4,000. That is what has happened in my constituency, in the whole district. And no one has acted, including NEMA, and I raised it here. I raised it with ministries. So for me, I think I would like to understand the statistics it is talking about of increase in forest. Is it 10%? Is it per year? Can you go down to a district level so that we understand as politicians what do we need to do to raise awareness? Because for me, I know in Tanzania, for example, that investor ran out from Tanzania and is not alone. There are very many who have come. Because in Tanzania, they said, for you to set up a factory, to cut trees, to get materials for plywood sent to China, you must have a source of raw material. So there must have been maybe a big forest you have planted or bought, but you can't go into a district where you know the moment people cut trees, you have zero. So on that enforcement, there is a lot to be done. The issue of plastic, we've talked about it. You know, last year when we were going to play East African Games in Rwanda, the golfers, we go with our bags. The moment you reach the airport, this wrap you do at the airport to protect your bag, they have to remove it. You cannot exit the airport with plastic. So if you talk of the enforcement of the 30 microns, all the importations that come into this country, the focus has been perhaps on the bag, the kavera itself. But what about things which are wrapped? Flasks, they come with kavera, packed, and it's a very, very big threat. Because when you go to trading centers across the country, in my municipality, for example, you will see the traders, they are selling goods, they have unwrapped, and kavera is all over. So enforcement is a problem. So I know that we would like to have a law for a total ban. And by the way, as a country, if we ban plastics, there will be a very, very big gain in employment for our people. If we focus on crafts, we have all these banana fiber bags can be made from all these things we have. You will have that industry actually grow. There are many countries that have done it. So the argument of loss of employment does not hold water. And I think if the law comes to Parliament, we should be able to support it. We will create mass employment for our people, but deal with the problem of environment. By the way, Oscar, this is not just environment. It is going to be a food security issue. Because if you go up country, you see the productivity. The banana, which used to be so huge, you see the plantations, it is shrinking, the product, the size. And that's because the soil has been stressed. We are not having fertilizers, but even the water, it no longer holds water. So there is a problem. Finally, again, NEMA, you have to sensitize people. And I think we've talked about it, me and the ED here, because there is confusion. If you go to my constituency, for example, sorry to refer to it, we have the biggest, I think the largest mining sand deposit in the whole of Western region after Ruera. I literally have almost the whole 2 parishes all the sand that builds comes from there. People have been surviving on that sand. There is confusion about what, because the enforcement, people take advantage. They come, raid people, and there is a lot of confusion in what their role is. When I read the law, I know when we are doing the Mining Act, we removed the issues of building materials to bring another law, which we should expect soon, to be able to bring a law that sustainably uses, manages issues of environment. Even in the mining law, there is an aspect of restoration. So you can actually mine sand, and after mining, recover it and plant trees. And we need to have those bylaws after setting up passing the building materials law, so that we can help our people. Even the issue of bricklaying, I think we've discussed it. It's also there's also a confusion. In Shema, we produce, I think after Kajansi, we have the big factories that make Mategura, the roof, the bricks, tiles in Bugonji and all those places. And so there's a lot of confusion. Do you tell the people, get out? Is that necessarily destroying the environment, or they can be assisted in terms of how do you do economic activities sustainably within the environmental guidelines? So for me, there is still a lot of work on enforcement. I do not think NEMA has done very well as expected on sensitization. You still have a very big, I have invited you many times to Shema. You keep complaining of money. But even with the little, you have environmental officers in the districts. Let's find a way of making them active. You know,
Shema is far away from Chigo. I still haven't managed to get him.
So
to Chigo,
if nothing has been done in Chigo, then we should stay on Kameme until.
I want us to go back to Dr. Kankwasa. There's a doctor friend of mine listening from Ghana, and he says Galamse is killing Ghana. You've heard of the expression?
Yes, I've been to Ghana for Galamse is illegal mining. Where you come at
don't
night
say it in Ruchigawe. Dr. Kankwasa saying it in Ruchigawe, Galamse. No, it's Galamse.
Galamse. Illegal gold mining. Yes, I am aware. It's a big problem there. Rivers are polluted.
38 forest reserves are no more due to Galamse activities in Ghana. There's a listener here, Cleophas Bagumire. It says, inform the ED that Orizi River in Mbara is encroached on from all banks and it is drying up.
It's true.
In case you didn't know.
It's very true. I've been there and we are taking actions.
Yes. So what do you take from this discussion, Dr. Karpas?
First of all, I'm happy that we are having this discussion and there is realization that we have a problem within environment. And the solution
let me read this for you.
And the solution is not going to be...
Dr. Kankwasa, this is, I think, the one. At Ssemujju, this is on X. Ruto's fuel station will exemplify our problem. Selective application of the law. We give away forests for sugarcane growing, allow sand mining, and establish factories in wetlands. All this is by the rich and chest-thumping people who evict the poor. So a lot of that is captured on social media this morning.
Yeah, first of all, I don't know Ruto's petrol station. I'm not aware of Ruto's petrol station.
Because you don't have to know everything. We are telling you.
Tell me. But I was saying that I'm very happy that we are having this discussion and that there is realization that we have a challenge that we must address as a nation. And this challenge cannot be addressed by government alone, neither can it be addressed by NEMA alone. It should be collective effort by all the citizens and government. You see, unlike infrastructure like, say, a road where government can make and deliver the road, government may not be able to make environment and deliver it. The government only guides the citizens to make that environment. Because whatever you do at your household level affects how the environment outcome will be. So it cannot be a blame on government. It should be a national issue which we must address together. Now, sustainable use, which has been raised by Honorable Katesh, it's true you can do sustainable use of wetlands. You can use certain resources, bricklaying, clay mining, sand mining, but regulated. What we've been having is really illegal bricklaying, illegal sand mining, where there is no restoration at all. And that's what has brought us where we are now. So what we are saying, let's organize. If you want to do bricklaying, organize yourselves into a community association for bricklaying, and we shall help to guide the community on how to do this, and that's the way to go. Plastic pollution, it's a big problem where everyone has said. I have nothing useful to add but to confirm that we must agree to address the problem. And I'm happy that the honorable members of parliament here are expressing support, so it gives me much happiness that we are in the same direction. Very soon we shall be in parliament on the same. The plastics, plastics has been addressed. The alternatives, there are so many, and if you go to Indonesia, they make shirts from banana fibers, shirts and a lot of fabrics. Now we have a lot of them here. So when we phase out single-use plastics, the economy can actually benefit further than we are getting from single-use plastics. The statistics from forests, my senior here read the statistics, I think, for natural forests. Those are statistics for natural forests. But the overall forest cover has appreciated from 9% to 13%. It's not that we are saying that we have made it, not at all. The problem is still very big, and the cutting down of trees for veneer, as said by Honorable from Shema. It's true, and the government has had to come up to ban export of timber, as you are aware. Because of that, government has also come up with a ban on export of raw materials from forestry products. They must add value here. So the problem has been realized, and the Prime Minister already set up an interagency committee to stop this from happening, and we no longer license any factory for production of veneer where there is no confirmed source of raw material. We no longer do that, and that problem is already being addressed.
That position is contradictory, because you see some ministries in the government have given licenses to export, while the law says it is prohibited. So we want to know what is the current position. If you say that they have banned them, but the factories are still operating, you can come to Shema now and see what is happening.
People are pointing them out next.
That's NRM style. You ban the public and private, then you continue.
No, there is a clear.
Dr. Akankwas, I'm giving you another extra minute, then we'll stop for a break and move. But also, in your final responses here, has someone resigned at NEMA about Kitezi?
Why would someone resign in NEMA about Kitezi?
People died.
Maybe first explain.
In Kitezi, people died.
NEMA does not manage Kitezi. So
no.
Why should somebody resign in the NEMA for Kitezi?
NEMA has no responsibility for Kitezi at all.
Absolutely not. NEMA, you see,
NEMA has responsibility.
NEMA is a regulator.
Disaster.
NEMA is a regulator, and so we license and monitor compliance. 2 licenses to manage waste. We license waste transporters. Now Kitezi was condemned by NEMA in 2015, and it's on record, and KCA has not denied this. They have accepted. They have made statements. So we knew that there was a problem.
There was
already.
no enforcement for you. You condemn and then watch it.
No. The issue was, if you enforce, then what? Does the waste come to the streets? So the issue is to find a solution, and the solution was being found in Mukono, where people opposed the establishment of an alternative landfill, as you are aware. Now, but we should not even be thinking of landfills in the 21st century. We should be talking of value addition to waste And in
Are you saying these things anywhere else?
In
Dr.
2022, we did approve a project for power generation at Chitez by Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development. So that was 2022. So the world should move from landfills because waste has value. Just separate waste at source, have plastics separately, they can be recycled back. Have glass.
Dr. Kakwasa Bairega, final word on Kaptogang.
Yeah, final word.
Yes, final word on Kaptogang.
Final word is really to thank the gangsters for the words of wisdom and encouragement, and also for the ideas on how we can better our improvement, and to call upon Ugandans that the war to liberate the environment is on, and this war must be won together. We must work together to ensure that we heal our planet. We do not want to see what happened in Nairobi recently, where 300 people perished from a flooding of a wetland within Nairobi city. So when we remove people from wetlands, it's not that we don't love them, it's because we are saving them from the worst which can happen to them.
Dr. Kakwasa Bairega of ED of NEMA, thank you. We stop for a quick break. Thank you for listening to the Kaptogang. We just stopped for a break. The topic then was what institutions work in Uganda. I'd like to have that theme running to the end of year. So send on X suggestions of what we should discuss. I had a conversation on Hon Ssemujju with Wilbrod Owor of banks. So he agreed that he will also come and sit in a hot seat to talk about the banking system, because the last time we touched on it, you heard what people were saying generally. And we're on Space as well, so follow us on X Space or Twitter Space. Emmanuel Dombo, you did not have to come with your chapati in the pocket. We have Star Cafe here. I know, I'm not saying you brought one, but Star Cafe is good.
I didn't know the regulations.
No, you can't start.
I'm back right away.
Yes. Oh, because the seat is... Maybe he was fearing that he needed to take one out of his pocket and he had not carried one. But no, we are very safe. So, Honorable Ssemujju, before we get to... Or maybe we should start there.
Before we get to what?
Before we get to why the Electoral Commission rejected your party's name, we're in a situation where the Minister of Justice said that the PLU party or pressure group may have more MPs after the next election. So you were talking about contradiction. This is the Minister of Justice. The other one, the head, is the CDF.
But the Minister of Justice himself, before he was appointed, he went to meet General Muhoozi. You remember?
I don't.
After that meeting, they both wrote about each other in praise. When he went to sign what he called a memorandum, Karujire was the government lawyer who marries Museveni's daughter. You see, Oscar, there are things in this country that people take as a joke. When you get a Speaker of Parliament constructing a health facility and all the wards are named after Museveni's children and their wives, why would you be surprised if the Minister for Justice says that the next big political institution is going to be that of a serving UPDF officer who also happens to be Museveni's son? I think we all have resigned that we are the Dombos who are given some employment there are serving the family. Whether you're a minister or not. The other day, Oscar, when Museveni was in a cabinet retreat, I guess Dombo was there. And these days, by the way, it is very common, even in Entebbe. Museveni chairs a cabinet with his wife seated on his side.
She's a cabinet member.
That's not how cabinet sits. and they both have access to microphone. I think in the recent case where they are complaining about corruption in a meeting in Entebbe, so Museveni was attacking Rwamirama, the wife was attacking Jim Muhwezi, so they both have microphone. It's like they jointly chair cabinet. And in the retreat it was worse, that the retreat which was recent in Chankwan's of cabinet, that Museveni says, I have another matter to attend to, Mama continue chairing. And then Mama continued chairing. That story I think now is public. Then he started crying. Now everybody, ministers, prime minister, they are all
I know you wanted to squeeze these things in.
No,
I'm trying
no.
to think of where the topic was.
You asked me about Pirao.
PLU, yes.
Yes. And the only reason we are discussing it is because it is a pressure group formed by Museveni's son. Otherwise, the conduct of Muhoozi should have earned him a place in Ruzira. Like Lieutenant General Henry Tumukunde. He was lucky because he's also related to the family, but he was here under house arrest for 4 years, not very far from where we are seated. So that's why I brought all this, Oscar, to explain the point. I know you will want me to run away from that, but you are the one who brought a pressure group by a sitting general of the military, who, by the way, also heads the military. So, and why it is important and why Mao should speak about it, I have told you they are taking turns in praising either the wife or the son or the brother. So Mao is doing what everybody in the government is doing. If you are a speaker, you construct a facility and then all the wards are named after the children. If you are a minister of justice, you must say Muhoozi is the most powerful thing. If you are, oh mama. So really that's where we are, Oscar. That's our reality. We can pretend about it. The other day I asked the Deputy Speaker of Parliament. The Deputy Speaker in the government hierarchy published, is it number 7 or number 10? Number 5, the Deputy Speaker. No, not number 5. But the Deputy Speaker was asked by Kataha, who is a junior in the government hierarchy, to go and represent her. So I asked him in Parliament, really, if you are a Speaker of Parliament, how can a junior government officer at the level of a minister assign you?
Maybe as,
I read
maybe as
Oscar,
first lady.
These things are very irritating. The other day I read Muhoozi. Muhoozi is supposed to be supervised by OO, the Minister for Defense, not Ofono. His name was escaped. Or both. At a function, these days, defense functions are presided over by Muhoozi Kainerugaba in the presence of the minister. And he was praising Oboth as being a good person. So it should be the reverse. It should be the minister praising one of his staff. But the staff presides over functions. The minister is there. You saw the Minister of Defense, before he was sacked, the Sempija. There was a function in Masaka of Muhoozi. And they all went running, including supervisors. So that's the leg. That's where we are now, Oscar. So I don't see anything isolated. It's not an isolated incident. So this government is a government of a family. Those who are serving there, one time I even asked Parliament, because in our rules are very strict. The president is only allowed to enter Parliament with a bodyguard. So I asked the speaker to tell me, why did Museveni come with his wife? And it is written in the rules that the president is allowed only to be accompanied by a bodyguard. But they came and sat on the high table with his wife. So I said, please tell us, under which law? The law says you come with a bodyguard. Under which law does the president walk in with his wife and they sit there as if they are Bagole? So
she's a minister.
No, ministers have places in the Parliament. You don't sit. I cannot go and sit where the Deputy Speaker sits or the Speaker. I cannot. So the wife of the president cannot sit. You don't come with your wife if one or two. You don't bring them. You don't import them.
Yeah.
So the point you asked, I don't know which answer you wanted, but the answer is we are completely now under family rule. people now are supposed to swear either by Kataha or by Kainerugaba to keep your job. If you're a speaker, whether a deputy speaker, whether a deputy president, whoever you are now, you swear by their names, either by Kaguta or Kataha or by Kainerugaba or by Sare, then you are safe in your job. and I sympathize with Dombo.
Angelo, why
do you sympathize with
Ssemujju may have some merit in the conclusion. I don't know about the others. Because lately, when you have an NRM, I'm putting to you.
History to resolve this one.
Oh,
yeah. because I think that.
Let me first put to you when many NRMs like Katesia, when he becomes chairman of what committee, first as he's going to chair a committee, he has to first research and decide which position he's taking. Because you have to look behind and say, now what is PLU doing and what is NRM doing, what is the historical doing. They are in that category. And both can speak last on this topic, this subtopic.
So is there a question somewhere?
Yes.
What's the question?
That's the one.
There is a topic. If there is no question, the topic is there.
Oscar, you know my views on the political establishment. First, I voted against the return of political parties in 2005. I thought our experiment with the individual merit system, the no-party system, was unique at the time in Africa and actually served the growth period for NRM was, as you know, between 86 and 96, slightly over that. But political systems around the world are in complete decline. Some of them are in complete disarray. We were talking about the US political market. You just see what's going on there. And in Europe, the picture is even far worse.
German elections.
Yeah, and the picture is far worse. Here in Africa, the demographic trends have already essentially pushed politicians to the corner. And let me give you, just by way of avoiding your question, okay? Let me give you an example of this. Recently, I've been trying to investigate trust in society where it is resident. Okay, it is not in public institutions anymore. Okay, I give you. I've been doing something on micro lending. So it may surprise you that whereas you hear in public that Ugandans cannot be trusted with money, that if you're a bank, you lend to them, they want to pay, they abscond from their debts. That picture is actually deceptive. MTN runs a service, a micro-lending service called Momo Cash. The default rate for Momo Cash customers is in some products is less than 2%. In other words, there's a 90% repayment rate for Momo Cash. Momo Cash, every day, transactions are 5.67 billion daily. Okay? And if you look at the impact of that on ordinary lives, there are probably people in this studio here who, before they came to work, took out a small loan just to cover transport costs. Market vendors, border guys who have actually the highest repayment rates for the money they borrow, all of those exhibit high forms of fidelity. You do not see that picture when you hear political conversations. You don't. When it comes to the discussion on political institutions, people just say you cannot trust politicians, you cannot trust government programs. By the way, as a way of comparison, mobile money transactions and micro-lending per year is about 445 billion. The transaction volume.
I am lost.
Okay? That's okay.
We were discussing
that is why we are saying, this is about the difference between what actually happens in society and what politicians are doing. Okay? I wanted to avoid your question, Oscar, because I think that there's a general desire for political reform reform of public institutions, the restoration of trust. So Honorable Ssemujju here can talk about the pageantry of politics. What is going on with the current political establishment. Okay, that is okay. He's a politician, there's an election around the corner. But I don't think that in our society today, the most important things are what politicians are doing. And I think the politicians, Honorable Dombo, you may correct me here, the politicians are trying to come to terms with how do you keep up with the changing trends of this society, if not to keep on, to hold on to power, just to manage and maintain stability. Thank you.
I don't want to let you off. You wrote a paper a little while ago and asserted that biology will sort out all these problems.
I know I said we needed a constitutional crisis to do root and branch reform.
And then you said it might not happen, but then we'll trust biology. But the way people are living longer, so you can no longer trust biology. The U.S. president gentleman, is he 80 or he's approaching
Trump,
80?
Hold on, was told not to contest.
So, look, the paper that I wrote in my lecture in 2013 was to say two things. That Uganda is going to transition to an oil and gas economy by 2022. That was I was fairly accurate there. And I also say that there would be a political transition around the same time. Now, there are many ways of thinking about transitions, okay? In 2021, you saw how NRM was completely blindsided by what young people were doing. Most of them drifted to people power. Had people power not turned into a political party and become a movement, we would have had what happened in Kenya here already. But I think the transition has happened in waves and phases. The mistake that politicians have is because when you are an elected official, sometimes they behave as if they understand and they manage society. They're like editors, you know. An editor can think that because I struck an opinion off the page, it means that I have, somehow constructed the way people are thinking. No. So society has moved, and I think that transition has already occurred. That is my view. Now, the motions that we are seeing about what's going on, there's an election, there's a new political movement. General Muhoozi has his PLU. I have said publicly, for me, the thing that I associate with General Muhoozi is his age. We are both 50 this year, okay? And we carry the same kind of concerns because we have been in the waiting room forever. Okay, I think he's agitating to have an opportunity of his own, to make a contribution. There's an entire generation of my age who just feel that time has passed us, and we haven't done what we can to make the country better. And to that extent, my view is always on the side of what is this soon-to-be retiring 50-year-olds like myself, what is our stake in that future? I don't think it is coming from what I observe happening in the political sphere. If we talk about the private sector and the innovations, what we are doing to hustle and survive, there I can make a contribution, Oscar.
Okay, there's a gentleman, King Charles, in terms of waiting. If you're only 50 and waiting, he
the epitome of patience.
Yeah, he waited a long time. Yes, Malcolm. So, Minister of Justice predicts that PLU will have more members of parliament after the next election.
Oscar, I find it intriguing that we are comparing General Muhoozi to Prince Charles.
No, I was comparing Angelo Izama.
That the idea of waiting takes us to Prince Charles, who
is King Charles these days.
King Charles, Prince Charles then, and King Charles now, and that seat that he was waiting for is hereditary. It was his, and barring biology, as I was saying, eventually it happened.
It was deliberate.
So to think of General Muhoozi in that light is quite something. He seems to be ticking all the boxes on the journey in that direction.
To King Charles.
Oscar, I think everyone, and this is my personal view, that everyone who draws earning from the consolidated fund of Uganda panders to the audience of one. Everyone. That is how the politics in this country has been constructed. Even the economics. But I'll stick to the politics. Pandering to the audience of one. So let's not be very surprised when Honorable Ssemujju chooses to connect PLU's projected dominance to the fact that the father of the head of PLU is the president. I don't think those two are mismatched. Honorable Dombo here had a disclaimer early on in the show where he mentioned power centers, that there is only one secretariat but several power centers. Operational centers, yes, and you operate with certain levels of authority and power. We have had stories, I have not been on a delegation, but had stories that there are certain parts of this country you need to visit to get assurance. Certain people in this country you need to visit to get assurance before you go for the main legal way of doing things. That you have to first secure certain blessings in certain corners of this country where people have patched themselves. So that is a new. And Angelo, for someone who
the same thing, you went around like this.
So I don't think that that statement was meant for us as an audience. I think the person who was supposed to receive that statement has received it, and the more we discuss it, the more we
perpetuate.
Yes, the very same, and probably bring the honorable minister to his to his eventual goal. You will recall that, and there's something that has been going around recently, because this minister is not only Minister of Justice, he is also the President General of an opposition or erstwhile opposition political party. So you shudder to think what hat is he wearing when he's saying these things. So how do you go back to a political party that is supposed to contest, and you're saying a civil society organization that is PLU is going to have the majority members of parliament, unless he's probably crossing over. Even the opposition politicians, by the way, like I said, everyone who draws a meaningful salary from the concerted fund is pandering to the audience of one. I don't want to preempt other topics, but I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Katesh, message here says, Honorable Ssemujju's allegations are not based on fact. Cabinet is chaired by the president, and in his absence, the vice president chairs. Then the prime minister, and in her absence, the deputy prime minister. The Minister of Education attends cabinet like any other member of cabinet, and when she wants to make a contribution, she raises her hand and is picked upon like any other member of cabinet. Ssemujju is not a member of cabinet.
Cabinet ministers are number 10 on the order of precedence for Uganda.
You know,
So whose message is that, Oscar?
To yours. To
No,
read.
who has sent the message?
I'm going to say people who attend cabinet.
So they are nameless.
Go on.
Oscar, I will not talk about Ssemujju because for him I know his pet subject
But
is.
who has told you to speak about? You asked to speak about PR, you want to speak about
I'm
Ssemujju.
responding to the message because he has given a message. But if Ssemujju doesn't talk about President Museveni and the family, they will not go well.
Yeah.
Oscar, we have 529 MPs in the Parliament of Uganda. The average age is 46.8.
It's going to become lower.
And
The
out of
average age.
average age. out of the 529, about 203, I think 203 have master's degrees, 16 have PhDs, and 196 have bachelor's degrees. So you have a fairly educated parliament that is young. The parallels with the PLU, which is, is a pressure group, are rising out of one major issue which Angelo hinted on it, but he was cutting around it, is the questions around this educated young population that ranges between, say, 40, even 60. When will they have an opportunity to make a contribution and sort of what some of the problems that they feel
we have failed to?
They have failed, sort of. And when Angelo says he's 50, he thinks about retirement. When he retires, will he have actually contributed solving some of the problems that we have been seeing? And that's why you see the rise of John Omhozi and the followers that follow him, because everybody feels, for example, people have been educated, they have gone out, they have been in the region, and we cannot face sort of a problem of potholes in the city, and therefore everybody thinks perhaps if this generation comes in, maybe they could do something. They can build on the achievements our seniors have made and do things a little bit better. And
maybe sort out rubbish collection.
Yes, recently I had a game with a friend who is even 65, but he feels that their generation have not been given an opportunity, because if you look at the average age of the MPs, you look at the average age of some people who are responsible for certain policies, you feel maybe there is a need to and that's where I think the pressure is coming from. And do not take this thing lightly to say the PRU, if the minister says many members will be, there are many people who think that along the lines of the ideas behind PRU, because some of the issues can be solved. And so many people who follow John Omhozi and my friend Ssemujju should not reduce it to a family affair. In his own right, he, as a general, as someone who is educated, is 50, turning 50, he is a Ugandan. He has a right to think and imagine how things should be. So if he feels, if he feels that perhaps he needs to play a role, you should not make it as if they will not just hand over to him. He has followers, and I'm sure if the followers support him, then that should not be reduced to just family. And the fact that he has a pressure group, you have been seeing him moving around, he has followers, many of whom are NRM, who think that maybe when time comes they can play a role. We should be very open, but not to say that
thank you, Katesh.
because someone is a president's son, he has a stake in Uganda.
Okay, we're going to stop for a break, and after the break we'll have Emmanuel Dombo. I hope he will not be as careful with the word choice. Teachers of literature, we call it diction. We will not be extremely careful with word choice
Dombo, it will be worse.
as Katesh. Welcome back from the break. This is the Capital Gang. Emmanuel Dombo, you are next on microphone. Maybe I should rephrase, because this a long time ago I asked Katesh, are you a member of PLU? Then he told me that I'm asking him the wrong question. Then he did all sorts of things on that show. Let me start with you. Are you a member of PLU?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
First and foremost, I'm a member of the National Resistance Movement. And I speak for the movement, specifically for the national chairman, for the organs of the party, and the formal decisions are taken by whichever organs of the party have decided. And but General Muhoozi is the CDF and is the son of the president. And he has formed a pressure group called PLU, which is a friendly force to the national resistance movement, because I've not seen it competing or contradicting anywhere. When
Ssemujju, your microphone is switched off.
When my brother Hon Ssemujju describes the rules in Parliament, he quotes the rules which were made without anticipating the situation that we are living in now. Nobody knew that at one time we shall have a president whose wife will be a minister, but now we have a president whose wife is a minister. And when you extend the protection of the president and his family, those who are envisaging protection which are within the law, and when the wife becomes a minister, she doesn't cease being part of the first family. So when she comes and sees where the president is, and that's where the most protection is, that is purely because the first family is the first family to be protected, and that doesn't breach any law. So some of the things require common sense to adjust, but also could be going in the future. They may envisage to find out which other amendments may be done to the law should a similar situation occur, or to prepare for similar or even worse situations. So these are issues which for them as members of parliament they should go. But going to the issue of my brother Honorable mentioned, and the issue of Pilau or PLU, Honorable Ssemujju prefers to call it Pilau, but it's PLU. And I want Honorable Ssemujju, when you read the papers of today, you can see that there is a young candidate being mooted by the National Unity Platform against Ssemujju. Now, perhaps they are not as young.
The Honorable said, let the man speak.
But now, when you look at this, to people who don't know, to me, I saw it when I went out of parliament and I was replaced by somebody younger who has since also been replaced. And this is the real transition. The transition people are talking about started happening long time ago. And every time they talk about the transition, they look about the office of the president. And but when you go to parliament, like Honorable Kate stated, you see that really all the people, all the elderly people who used to be there. Yes, Moses Ali is there, but how many Moses Alis are there? Previously, that's why you see that the young people on that side are planning also to get there. So, I'll use the Uganda proverb, which many people, I think that's what many people are trying to do, which says that Chijomanyi, Chinyagavitono, because we are all in a situation nobody knows what exactly is happening. I want to tell you this. Because for us in the national resistance movement,
let him finish.
For us in the national resistance movement, we have the president, we have a term we are running, and we have processes that are beginning, and the NRM will come up with its candidate when the time comes. And we believe strongly that President Museveni is going to be on the ballot, and we are going to be on the ballot, inshallah. And so when that time comes, but also the son, who is the CDF, has been mobilizing in the country in such a manner that would portray him that what if it happened that tomorrow something happened and he became? Would you be taken unawares? So people are strategically positioning themselves in such a way that should either of those happen, they should not get them by surprise, and they should not be left by the transitional movement. And this is basically what people have been doing. And so Honorable Batimao, when you look at the members of parliament, all the young members of parliament, even in the constituencies, the voting, when you look at the statistics of the recent census, the voting population is going to be younger. The population in the parliament, all the members of parliament are going to be younger, and many of these young people would want to either associate, those in National Unity Platform here in Kampala, would want to associate with their principal because it's their age, he talks about their generation. But when you look at the movement side, the person who has exuded himself talking about the young people, their aspirations and their age has been General Muhoozi. So should it happen that tomorrow President Muhoozi is elected?
Your microphone is not on. Let him finish.
Should it happen that tomorrow General Muhoozi is elected the president?
Yeah.
Nobody would want that to happen. And the coach or the train of transition takes them unawares and they are left behind. This is basically what is happening. But for members of parliament, me, I will say this. There are so many laws that require modification and amendment when you look at it. One of them, we have just been to Kisoro for the burial of the honorable minister. And at the funeral, before they could bury, people are already politicking to find out who should be replacing the minister. Would we want to look at that law and find out when should a by-election happen if a person has been deceased? This is something that could be looked at. It did happen when the right honourable speaker of parliament died. And it put us into contradiction in northern Uganda. People couldn't understand that is what the constitution says. The constitution says that when the position of the speaker falls vacant, there will be no other business in the house other than the election of the speaker. And now, Parliament had to sit to receive the body which was out of the country. In the north, we were portrayed badly that their son has died, a respected person, but before you could even talk of receiving the body and burying it and commiserate with the people of the north and the family, for us, people are jostling for positions here in Parliament. Those are issues which the Parliament could look at and find out whether this is true. And finally, one of the things I've been looking at also, which my brother Ssemujju would tell, during an election, after every general election, I would want a party which wins a position. This is my view. It's not a view of NRM, first of all.
You are allowed to express your view.
If a party wins an election, in a general election, let that win be for 5 years. That the party, FDC, has won this position for 5 years. So that when there is a member of parliament dying, the replacement should be the responsibility of that party to get a place. It has happened in many countries. So this is jurisprudence which can be copied either from other countries as is happening. Because whenever we go for by-elections, when you look at the cost, is it necessary? When you look at the altercation that comes with it, is it necessary? These are issues you must be debating instead of debating PLOU or PLAO.
Okay. Yeah.
One thing
just
I want to advise.
Addition.
A quick one I want to advise Ssemujju and his group. You know, rather than ranting about PLOU, no, you see that is diversionary.
Coming next on Parliament on microphone.
Rather than ranting about PLOU and Muhoozi as an individual, you should actually be mobilizing to counter. If you think that you can, if for example you stood together, would you be able to get more votes than him or not on merit? So that's what you should be focusing on, because competition, it's a democracy. We are open. So
I'm coming to you. So Honorable Ssemujju, I'm coming back. First, listen to this. There's a message here of someone, even 40-something-year-old MPs and senior officers feel they've not had an opportunity to make a contribution. And is PLU a pressure group, civil society organization, or a social club? So Joe in Kampala asked Ssemujju, tell us what the first family did to you so we can resolve it. But hey, now, before, as you answer.
You want me to answer?
Yes. Yeah. But I have a letter here saying, maybe because we want to go to FDC as well. It says you only submitted the color white and royal blue and a symbol of a phone without a full description of the said symbol and color submitted for reservation. This is in response to request to reserve name, color, symbol and slogan under the proposed People's Front for Freedom. So there's a response from the Secretary Electoral Commission saying maybe the people changing to opening a new party, they've not done enough for their request.
The letter from Electoral Commission raised the issues that are of two categories. The first category is that they wanted a printout to see how those colors look. They want to see how white looks. So they said, you send us a printout
of white
and royal blue. That is in their letter.
Okay.
They want to see how white looks
this is a
like.
description.
Yeah. They also said they want to see how the phone we will want to be a symbol of our party looks like.
But they say they closely remember the one resemble
I'm coming to that.
Okay.
So we have done the printout and sent it to them. The other issues they raised are issues that cannot be raised by the Electoral Commission. They said this blue resembles FDC. First of all, almost every party that has registered there has blue. UPC has blue, GM has blue, the dominant color of NUP is blue. I don't know why Electoral Commission thought that for us it will be a crime if we have blue, yet everybody else has blue, and they didn't stop them. But we have responded and told them, if you didn't know, you have the following parties that have blue. Tell us why you should apply a different standard to us. But also blue has shades. You cannot say, and we also reminded them the colors of the FDC that were registered. FDC registered yellow, red, blue, and green. A said, but they singled out blue. It's as if that letter was being responded to by Nandala. Then they said, your name is close to People Power Front. And we told them, you the same institution, you have registered the Democratic Party. You have registered Social Democratic Party. You have registered because they say the initials may confuse the public. You have PDP. You have Triple P. Said, are you the same Electoral Commission that registered these parties? And when it comes to us, you are telling our initials will resemble. So we have responded, Oscar. We now wait to see Justice Byabakama, a judge of High Court, and his group, what they will say. So the first two that are legitimate, that they want a printout to see how white looks like, we have printed. Maybe we are naive not to know that the Electoral Commission doesn't know how white looks. We have printed white. We have printed blue. We have also given them a picture of a phone to answer. Maybe to me that's legitimate. But the other issues they raised, we have only drawn their attention to what they have done before and asking them to revisit that decision.
Emmanuel Dombo. Response to the new people who want to start People's Front for Freedom.
First and foremost, I wish to sympathize with my brothers because the response of the Electoral Commission may delay them, but I thought this may give them the rarest opportunity for them to reconsider their position and find out whether it is too late for them to go back and reconcile. Because to the people of Uganda, to see individuals who can't reconcile in an organization, when they disagree tomorrow in the country and they're in charge of the country with the guns, what will they do? What will they do? But he did not kill the other. Museveni did not kill other organizations. You want to go, but at the same time you want to go and kill the others. Which one?
That's why we went for referendum to free them.
No. They existed in Kampala.
You are more intelligent than that.
No. Hon Ssemujju.
So you don't remember that Museveni closed the parties?
Is this how we conduct business?
Yes.
No.
So you don't remember?
Continue. No.
So
you've made the comment. Let him respond.
This portrays the new organization in such a way to the people of Uganda. They will keep asking those questions. They will say, if these people can disagree to the level that in order to form a new organization must kill the other one where you have been, what will happen when you disagree in a country and you are the president and commander-in-chief? That means others will go to exile. So this has given them an opportunity to go back and reconsider. If they have failed, for us as NRM, we shall sit and watch, but we shall wait for whichever organization comes during the elections, because we are ready and set. Whoever comes, we shall deal with it as such.
Katesh.
We've talked about this issue, but this particular one, if I was a electoral commission, I would quickly give them what they want, because it will not take long before they split. Yeah. Even that one which they are registering.
How? This time you have resisted saying again.
No, I'm telling you that they can have their party, but if the way they have been resolving issues of FDC is to move from the original FDC, you had the first sprinter group, it went, another one went, Ant was created, then you started the Katonga. Let them have it. Let them be registered. It will not take long, because you see, the best way, if you are looking for taking power to lead Ugandans, you should be able to have internal mechanism to sort of challenges. So they will have it, but I know
the Electoral Commission is creating news for them.
They will not. There will be another faction emerging from within, and we are here. The good thing, because if God gives us life, we shall see. Because the issues that they are not discussing issues to enable them unite against what they stand for. So for us as NRM, I think this confusion. This confusion
will benefit.
The PLU, we are part of it. Is one house. With many bedrooms. One bedroom has PLU, but we are occupied. So we are in
I don't know which bedroom you're in,
so,
Katesh.
No, I'm in the house.
This might be a good question for Oscar to ask that question again.
I'm in the main house.
You might still be in the compound.
We have got our pressure groups, but we are not like
Katesh might be in the compound. Thank you, Kate. Let's go to Malcolm here.
I think that it's a bit unfortunate that rather than address the, because I'm a process person, Oscar, and I think that process is very important because it determines the quality of the product, and I think that's what we should be addressing now. The process through which a party, that a group of people that is interested in registering a political party is being taken through, irrespective of who is behind that process. And I think that as politicians at the table, you should be mindful of that fact, because today it is Ssemujju and his people. It is possible that that very same law and the precedent that has been set begins to apply to the NRM, the PLU, and the other pressure groups that might choose to then register. I think that should be where the discussion is, because irrespective of who is interested in creating that party, we should have a process that is transparent, a process that allows for the political processes to go forward. I know that the challenges that I'd want to know whether actually the NRM politicians here do agree in a way with the issues that were raised in terms of substance. The substance that has been raised by the Electoral Commission, is that valid substance? Is that a reason, again, given their history, is that a reason to actually turn down the political the decision, the application for a political party? I think that while the challenges are being faced by FDC in terms of how they get to, or former FDC, how they get into the political arena, the focus on the upcoming elections and with PLU in the wings, in one of the rooms in the big house, I think that when we look at the coming election and see how we are positioning ourselves, if the electorate is going to be much younger, like Honorable Dombo is saying, the MPs themselves are much younger, the attrition rate though could speak to some of that. What is the quality? And I was impressed by the education, profile of the MPs. But then I also began to question and ask, what is the quality of the education system in this country that then gets us this quality of members of parliament? So if we are looking at getting younger people into parliament because it is their time to govern,
to eat.
So I emphasize their time to govern. If that is the case, what is the quality of young person we are putting there? I was whispering here with Angelo about the 35-year-olds that are in parliament, and all they have known is you skirt the line to get ahead. That's all they have known, because that's what they have lived. So that's what they are carrying forward into this governance seats that we are taking them to.
We're running out of time. Honorable Ssemujju, I'll allow you just 1 minute, because Angelo is safer to close the gang for today. So, no, the time is up. So you're 1 minute, because if I don't allow you the minute, you will echo again.
I want to thank Malcolm. You see, the discussion by Kateshuma and Dombo is not a discussion of how political parties are registered under the Political Parties and Organizations Act. Dombo is discussing politics. Okay. Reconciliation is not work of the Electoral Commission. If I have brought an application, process me the same way you have processed others. That's all. That's the only role you have in the law. But when you begin telling me that you've put on a blue that looks like Najana Nkumbi and your Electoral Commission of Uganda, yet everybody else has blue, and sooner than later I'll be subjecting myself to your jurisdiction. So people who are, the point I made earlier, Oscar and Dombo knows it when they were in Parliament. You had, and it started long ago. You had MPs who will never utter a word until they have been told Museveni is okay with this. Then they will pretend as if it is originating from them, and Dombo knows it. On every matter, what is the president saying? So if they hear, you remember one time Msawabutulu caused himself trouble. He said Museveni was devastated with the death of Garanga, and the man came and said, no, I was not devastated, I'm a revolutionary. So they're just there scheming, thinking, what will he say next?
Angela, is that a conclusion to gang this morning?
Well, okay. I think on the issue of the registration of the party, I mean, it sounds like a discussion on copyright. Sometimes, when you register a product, there is a government agency that says, this and that, but the Electoral Commission should not stand in the way of any political organization willing to join Uganda is an open, with limitations, an open political market. They should perhaps just fast track this registration. It makes no difference. Ultimately, this you have to trust the people. The voters eventually will determine the outcomes of what Honorable Ssemujju and the FDC are trying to do. Oscar, is that a fitting conclusion?
Yeah, we will go with that.
Saying, happy birthday here, because in the
he doesn't know when he was born.
So yes, go ahead.
That's all right.
Yeah, there are things with the happy birthday.
Saying that.
No, he said in writing that he doesn't know when he was born. The was assigned to him. Was sent to him by his children.
So thank you, Angelo. Angelo, there are some events with like on the topic list we didn't get to discuss. Abdul Katuntu is away, so we'll wait for him to come up, and then we'll discuss the American last debate. I've been telling people communication is very important.
Brutal.
Communication throughout President Biden. So we will continue discussions. Thank you so much, Star Cafe, for powering the gang. This morning, everyone has well participated. Listeners that were following on the space, bravo to you. Thank you. Emmanuel Dombo, thank you for attending gang. Honorable Katesh, thank you for attending. Honorable Ibra, thank you for attending. People usually it's Tim Kalejira who writes to me when I say things like Honorable Ibra says you should say Honorable Ssemujju. And Malcolm Pamizo and Angelo Zama, thank you so much. I am Oscar Semoy Amsoke, and I shall see you next week.